The chair was never moved. Every night for 15 years, Linda set the table for 3. Fork on the left, knife on the right, napkin folded just so. Ethan's seat faced the window, the one that caught the last light of the evening sun. She didn't care how absurd it seemed. To her, it wasn't a ritual, it was resistance, a refusal to forget. The night Ethan disappeared, the spaghetti had just been drained. His plate was still steaming when Charles walked in from the garage, his hands stained with grease, his face blank. "He'll come back," Charles had said, with the conviction of someone who needed it to be true more than he believed it. But he never did. The police treated it like a runaway. A note had been found in Ethan's room, a single line on notebook paper. "Don't come looking for me." Linda knew that wasn't her son's handwriting. She said so again and again. They nodded, filed reports, and closed the case within a month. What they didn't close was the wound. Charles stopped speaking Ethan's name after the first year. By the second, he stopped acknowledging the anniversaries. No missing posters, no more calls to the precinct. When Linda cried in the kitchen, Charles turned up the TV. She told herself he was grieving in silence, that he couldn't face the pain. That was easier than admitting a darker thought. Maybe he never cared. Ethan had been their only child. Sweet, quiet, with a talent for drawing. He used to leave sketches on the fridge. Cartoon cots, superheroes, a comic strip about a boy who could turn invisible. After he vanished, Linda kept them all. A shoebox full of lost lines and laughter. And yet, time moved like treacle. Days blurred into years. The neighbors stopped asking. Church friends avoided her gaze. Even her sister, Marian, gently urged her to let go. But how do you let go of someone whose toothbrush is still in the holder? Sometimes, late at night, Linda would wander into Ethan's room. It still smelled faintly of boyhood. Dust, old paperbacks, and the citrus body spray he liked. His bed was made, his posters curling at the edges. On the dresser, a framed photo of him at age 13. Grinning, braces catching the light. That smile haunted her. She clung to it like driftwood in a dark ocean. And yet, somewhere, deep inside, a whisper had always nagged. Something wasn't right that night. Something Charles never told her. Because Charles wasn't just indifferent. He was relieved. He went back to work a week after Ethan vanished. He never joined the searches. When Linda begged him to hire a private investigator, he refused, citing money they didn't have, though she'd seen the new tool set in the garage. 15 years later, the marriage had calcified into routine. They didn't argue. They didn't laugh. They were two ghosts, sharing a house filled with memories that smelt like guilt. And every night, that chair at the dinner table waited. Until the night, it didn't. It was exactly 2:04 a.m. when Linda heard the doorbell ring.
Chapter 2. The doorbell at 2 a.m. The sound sliced through the silence like a scalpel. Linda bolted upright in bed, heart pounding, unsure if she dreamed it. The clock glowed red, 2:04 a.m. Again, the doorbell rang. Once, then twice in rapid succession. Urgent, not a prank, not a delivery. She wrapped herself in her robe and moved through the hallway with careful, terrified steps. Charles didn't stir. Or maybe he was pretending. He'd long since taught himself not to wake when she did. The porch light flickered to life as she reached the door. She hesitated. Who rang a bell at this hour? No headlights in the driveway, no wind, just a stillness so sharp it hummed in her ears. She cracked the door open, and the world fell out from under her. A man stood in the dim light, gaunt and tall, wrapped in a coat that looked 2 sizes too big. His hair was dark and overgrown, his beard unkempt, but the eyes, those eyes were familiar. "Mom," he said. Her knees gave out. She grabbed the doorframe for balance. The voice was deeper, raspier, but beneath it, Ethan. She didn't speak, couldn't. Her brain scrambled to match the 13-year-old boy in her memories with the haunted man in front of her. Scars on his knuckles, a burn on his neck, a limp, barely noticeable, on his right side. He didn't smile, just waited. I don't understand," she whispered. "Is it really?" He nodded once. "It's me." Then she threw her arms around him. He didn't hug her back right away. His body was stiff, like he wasn't used to touch. But after a second, he placed a hand on her back. It trembled. She pulled him inside, forgetting everything, the time, the silence, the years. She wanted to ask 1,000 questions at once. Where had he been? Why now? Was he safe? Instead, she said the only thing that made sense. "Are you hungry?" He nodded again.
In the kitchen, she reheated leftovers with shaky hands while Ethan sat at the table, in his old chair. He didn't look around, didn't ask about his room or the house. He just watched her, like he didn't believe she was real. When the food was ready, he ate slowly, methodically, barely tasting it. Linda couldn't stop staring. She noticed the way he winced when lifting his fork, how his eyes darted toward sounds, how he seemed to brace himself before speaking. "I thought you were dead," she finally said, voice cracking. "I thought so too sometimes," he replied. She reached for his hand, but he pulled it back. "I'm sorry," she said softly. He looked down. "It's not your fault." She didn't ask about Charles, not yet, but the question burned in her throat. "Did you try to reach us? Did your father know?" Instead, she asked the thing that terrified her most. "Where have you been?" He didn't answer right away, just stared at the table, then said, "I'll tell you, just not tonight." "Of course," she nodded quickly. "You're safe now. That's all that matters." He didn't look convinced. Later, after he'd fallen asleep on the couch, fully dressed, curled into himself like a frightened child, Linda stood at the doorway watching him. He looked older than his years, worn. That's when Charles came down the stairs. He rubbed his eyes. "What the hell's going on?" Linda turned to him, her voice low but sharp. "Ethan's home." Charles froze. For a second, too long, he said nothing. And then his face did something Linda couldn't unsee. It didn't light up. It didn't crumble. It clenched. Chapter 3. The Letters in the Attic. Linda couldn't sleep. After Ethan had drifted into a shallow, uneasy slumber on the couch, she'd gone to their bedroom. But the silence there was no longer neutral. It had turned sharp, pointed. Charles had crawled back into bed without another word. No questions, no embrace, just a grunt and a muttered, "We'll talk in the morning." But morning came and he was gone, off to the auto shop like nothing had happened. Linda stood in the kitchen holding Ethan's empty coffee mug, her thumb brushing the rim like it might still hold warmth. Her son was here, breathing, broken, but alive. And Charles hadn't asked a single question. That wasn't grief. That wasn't shock. That was something else. She went into Ethan's old room to prepare it, but the stillness there felt too sacred to touch. So instead, she climbed to the attic, looking for clean sheets, old blankets, anything to help him feel at home. The air was dry and sharp with dust. Forgotten boxes lined the walls, Christmas decorations, old VHS tapes, a crate of Ethan's childhood toys. She reached for a bin labeled winter bedding, but her eyes were drawn to something else. A black plastic storage box, cracked on one side, half buried under insulation rolls. No label, no dust. She opened it.
Inside were letters, dozens of them, folded neatly, each in a plain envelope. No stamps, no markings, just the same name written in the same rushed, uneven handwriting. Mom. Her breath caught. Hands shaking, she opened the top one. The paper was yellowed, but the ink was clear. Mom, it's me. I don't know where I am, but I'm okay. I think about you every day. I miss you. Please don't stop looking for me. I'm sorry for what I said that night. I was scared. I didn't want to go. She dropped it. Her legs buckled and she sat hard on the attic floor, heart racing. Another letter, then another. All addressed to her, all desperate. Some angry, some hopeful, others broken. Some dated, some not. They spanned years. Years. Ethan had tried to reach her, but she never got a single one. She dug to the bottom of the box. One envelope had been torn open, the flap ragged. The paper inside was smeared, like someone had gripped it with oily fingers. The content was different. I know what you did. I won't stop until she knows. No signature, but she knew the handwriting. Knew it like her own. Ethan. She staggered downstairs, clutching the open letter. Her son was still sleeping, curled on his side, his face turned away. The moment felt too raw to wake him, so she waited, sat across the room, watched him breathe. And then, mid-morning, Charles walked in. He stopped cold when he saw her holding the letter. "What's that?" he asked. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Why were these in the attic? His eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? She stood, crossing the space between them, the open letter shaking in her hand. He wrote to me, over and over. You said we never heard from him. You lied. Charles said nothing, his mouth pressed into a hard line. How long have you known? She asked, her voice cracking. Still, he said nothing. She could barely breathe. You kept him from me, even when he was still alive. You let me think he was dead. And finally Charles spoke. One word. Stop. But it wasn't fear in his voice. It was warning. Something turned cold in Linda's spine. She looked back at Ethan, still sleeping, and realized Charles had never wanted him to come back.
Chapter 4. He's Not My Father. Ethan didn't speak much for the rest of that day. He moved like someone just released from a cage, unsure where to step, unsure what was safe. Linda stayed close but didn't push. She cooked him eggs, brought him tea, sat beside him in silence as the sun moved slowly through the windows. But something inside her had shifted. She couldn't stop thinking about the letters, about the years of silence that hadn't been fate, but a choice. A man she'd shared a bed with for 3 decades had betrayed not only her trust, but their child's cry for help. And Ethan knew. She could feel it in the way he looked at Charles, not with hate, but something colder. Recognition. That night, after Charles went to bed early without a word, Linda found Ethan on the back porch. He sat on the old swing, one foot dragging lightly on the wooden floorboards, his coat zipped despite the summer heat. She joined him quietly. They sat like that for a while, staring into the dark yard. I found the letters, she said finally. He didn't look at her. Took you long enough.
Tears stung her eyes. I didn't know. I figured. His tone wasn't cruel. It was exhausted. She reached for his hand. This time, he let her. His skin was calloused, fingers marked by small scars. These were not the hands of a man who'd spent his youth safe. I want to understand. Please, Ethan, what happened to you? He took a long breath. His eyes were fixed on the dark trees beyond the fence. I didn't run away. That note, I didn't write it. He did. Linda's heart stopped. Ethan continued, voice flat, like he'd told this story to himself 1,000 times to stay sane. He owed someone money. A lot. I don't know who. He never told me their names. But they came to the house one night after you were asleep. I heard arguing in the garage, and then he came into my room. He told me to get dressed, that we were going for a ride. I thought he was going to take me camping or something. We drove for hours. Ended up in a gas station parking lot outside some small town. That's where he left me. Just handed me over.
Ethan's voice cracked. I didn't know what was happening until it was too late. These two guys took me in a van, locked me up somewhere. I don't remember where it was. I stopped trying to count the days after the first few months. Eventually, they started moving me around. Different houses, different names. I wasn't a person anymore. I was property. Linda felt like the world had tilted sideways. He sold you, she whispered. Ethan nodded. For debt, or silence, or both. I don't know. But he did it. And he left me. He finally turned to her, eyes hollow. He's not my father. Not after that. Linda couldn't breathe. Every image of Charles she'd held in her mind, every moment of doubt she had dismissed, now fell apart. And in their place, a terrifying clarity settled. Ethan looked down at his hands. I got out because someone finally helped me. A woman. She saw me at a gas station. Said I looked like a ghost. She asked the right questions. Got the right people involved. But by then, I didn't even remember my last name. It took months to piece it all back. I came home because I had to know if you were part of it. Linda shook her head violently. No, God, no. I know that now. But I didn't for a long time. They sat in silence again, the swing creaking gently. Then Ethan spoke, almost in a whisper. He doesn't know I remember everything. Linda turned to him, her breath caught in her chest. And what are you going to do? She asked. Ethan's eyes, for the first time, flashed with something sharp. I'm not here just to come home. I came back to make sure he pays. Chapter 5. The table is full, but silence remains. The next morning, Linda woke before dawn. She stood in the kitchen, barefoot on the cold tile, watching the coffee drip into the pot. Her hands trembled. Her heart was calm in a way that felt unnatural, like the calm that settles just before a storm breaks something open. Ethan was still asleep in his room, his old room. The bed that had waited 15 years now held the truth. Charles came downstairs at 6:13 a.m., like always. Same boots, same thermos. He didn't look at her when he entered, just reached for the keys on the hook by the door. We need to talk, she said. He paused, slowly turned. Linda placed a folded envelope on the kitchen table. Ethan's open letter. The one with the sentence, I know what you did. Charles stared at it. Don't pretend anymore, she said. Her voice was flat, steady. "I know what happened. He told me everything." He didn't sit, didn't speak. "I found the letters, Charles. I read every single one. You lied to me. You let me suffer for years while he was out there hurting. You let me believe he was dead." "He was never supposed to come back," he said. The words fell like iron. Linda stepped back like the air had struck her. "I did what I had to do," he added. "You don't understand the pressure I was under. I was going to lose everything. This house, the shop, you." "So you sold our son?" His eyes twitched. "It wasn't like that." "Then explain it to me," she demanded, her voice rising for the first time, "because the only thing I see is a man who gave away his own child like he was some burden to be traded." He was just a kid," he muttered. "Yes, he was. A boy. Our boy. And you gave him away to men who hurt him, who destroyed him." Charles looked at her, now, really looked. And what she saw in his face wasn't guilt. It was calculation. "You're not going to tell anyone," he said. "You'd ruin everything. Your life, your reputation, the family name." "There is no family," she said. She reached into her pocket and placed a second object on the table, her cell phone. The screen was lit, recording. The timer ran past 5 minutes. Charles stared at it like it was a weapon. And it was. "I sent a copy to Marion, to a lawyer, to the detective who used to work Ethan's case. There's no going back." He stepped forward. "Linda." She backed away. "Don't." His hands clenched, but he didn't move closer. The sound of soft footsteps broke the moment. Ethan appeared in the hallway, dressed, awake, still bruised by memory, but no longer silent. He looked at Charles the way someone looks at a broken thing. Once useful, now dangerous. "I just wanted you to see me one more time, to know that I survived, that your choice didn't end me." Charles swallowed hard. "You think this is justice?" "No," Ethan replied. "This is just the beginning." Charles left that morning, not with yelling, not with slammed doors, just with silence and the weight of exposure crushing his spine. Weeks passed. Charges were filed, investigations reopened, names resurfaced. And though the legal system moved slowly, Linda moved fast. She filed for divorce, sold the house, bought a small one-bedroom closer to Ethan's apartment. They saw each other every Sunday. Not all wounds healed, but the bleeding stopped. The silence changed shape. It wasn't void anymore. It was space. Space for truth, space for rebuilding. One afternoon, Linda made spaghetti, just like the night he left. They sat across from each other at the table. 2 plates, 2 forks. No empty seat this time. Just a quiet between them, not of pain, but of presence. She looked at him, truly looked. The lines on his face, the flicker in his eyes that hadn't been there weeks ago. "I don't know how to forgive him," she said. "You don't have to," Ethan replied. "Some people don't deserve it." She nodded, then whispered, "But you deserved so much better." He didn't answer. He just took her hand. And for the first time in 15 years, Linda felt the house wasn't haunted anymore.
Some betrayals don't come from strangers. They come from the people who swore to protect us. Linda lost 15 years of memories. Ethan lost his childhood. But together, they reclaimed something no one could steal: the truth. This isn't just a story about what was broken. It's about what we choose to rebuild, even when the damage seems permanent. If you've ever carried a silence that wasn't yours to bear, if you've ever had to face someone you once called family and walk away stronger, this story was for you. Let us know in the comments. Have you ever had to choose between justice and forgiveness? How did you survive it? If this story moved you, leave a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, And subscribe for more dark, true-to-the-heart stories like this one. Because sometimes storytelling is the only way to turn pain into power.